Chapter 1 Run. Keep running? Let's see if you can keep running. From a small alley just a few meters away, the cacophony of a struggle filled the air. It was the early hours of the morning, and the street lay shrouded in an eerie silence, with only my best friend Sunny and the brawling men breaking the stillness. In my previous life, the scene had unfolded much like this. Sunny and I, during our senior summer break, had made the frugal choice of traveling on the cheapest green train tickets to save a few bucks. The train had rolled into the station around 4 in the morning, our weary bodies dragging heavy suitcases as we prepared to hail a taxi home. Out of nowhere, the sounds of a violent altercation and a man's desperate cries echoed from a secluded alley. Sunny urged me, her voice laced with concern, not to intervene and instead prioritize getting home for some much-needed rest. Yet, in my previous life, I had found it impossible to ignore those anguished cries. Fueled by an unshakable sense of duty, I had rushed into the fray, taking down 2 men and brandishing my phone to declare that I'd already called the police. The assailants had shot me a long, hard look before swaggering off, slipping away just as the police arrived. Meanwhile, as I plunged into the chaos, Sunny had quickly maneuvered her suitcase away, eager to distance herself from any trouble. But this time, before the thrill of my rebirth could fully sink in, Sunny unexpectedly shoved me to the ground. "You go home first, don't follow me," she commanded, her voice resolute as she dashed into the fray, not once looking back. In that fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of her inner thoughts. This time, it's my turn to become Mrs. Lewis. Seeing her fervent excitement, the realization struck me, she too had been reborn. If my best friend yearned for this extravagant life, I would gladly hand it all over to her. The location was far from ideal for catching a taxi, so I hurriedly dragged my suitcase toward the bustling city center, where hopes of a cab were brighter. In my previous life, I had saved the young master, but paid the price with my own injuries. During my hospitalization, Sunny and my parents had spread cruel rumors that I had been involved in a fight, and that someone had broken my leg in retaliation. During that time, my parents had been torn between their concern for my well-being and their distress over the damaging rumors. This time, I sprinted homeward, determined not to look back. In my previous life, the Lewis family had paraded Ethan, now fully recovered, to publicly thank me for saving his life. Ethan had even professed his love on camera, declaring it was love at first sight. His father had generously offered my family 30 million yuan as gratitude and a dowry. This act of kindness quickly caught the attention of the media, propelling me into the spotlight as River City's sky-high bride, trending for an entire month. During that whirlwind, Sunny had been consumed by fury, spreading malicious whispers that I was merely a gold digger, claiming I had only saved Ethan because I knew his true identity. As no one believed her, her rage only grew, festering into a deeper hatred for me. Ultimately, as I landed an internship at the Lewis Group before graduation and ascended to vice president within just 2 months, earning $1 million annually, living a life of luxury with a handsome husband and adoring in-laws, Sunny's jealousy erupted. At our graduation party, she poisoned my drink with concentrated mango extract. I suffered a severe allergic reaction, and due to the delayed treatment, I suffocated and met my tragic end. Reborn, I ran to a spot near the city center, where it was easier to catch a taxi. As I got into the cab, I couldn't stop laughing. This time, I would grant you everything you desire. Let's see if you can truly handle it. Chapter 2 Hurrying home. I was greeted by the comforting aroma of my mom's freshly brewed lemon tea, my absolute favorite. As I looked at my young parents, tears welled in my eyes. In my previous life, after my discharge from the hospital, I had rarely seen them. Once I married into the Lewis family, I found myself under constant scrutiny. I became a cover for Ethan's affair with his stepsister, and a scapegoat for the Lewis Group. I didn't see my parents again until the day I died. From above, I watched my parents' hair turn white overnight, a painful reminder of my absence. I felt an overwhelming sense of injustice, yet I was already gone, powerless to punish those who had wronged me. But fate had other plans, granting me a second chance at life. This time, I would protect my loved ones and ensure that those who hurt me faced the consequences they deserved. Sunny's family lived next door. Unlike my previous life, she had suffered even more severe injuries. Despite holding a black belt in Taekwondo, I had been unable to fend off those thugs, let alone her. Shortly after I arrived home, I heard Sunny's parents rushing out in a state of panic. As my dad prepared to head out to buy groceries, Sunny's mom stormed up and demanded, "Is Yoko back?" My dad, taken aback, nodded. Sunny's mom, in a fit of rage, pointed at him and yelled, "Is your daughter even human? My girl is lying in the hospital, and she just came home without a word." Her frantic shouting drew the attention of all our neighbors, who peeked out to see what was happening. Feeling embarrassed, Sunny's dad tugged at his wife's arm. "Sunny is still in the hospital. We should go there first." Sunny's mom refused to leave, standing in the hallway, crying and insisting we accompany them to the hospital to cover Sunny's medical expenses. My dad, visibly frustrated by her unreasonable behavior, turned red with anger. I stepped past my father, facing Sunny's mom with a calm smile. "Auntie, let's be reasonable. Sunny told me to leave, saying you would follow her. How is this my fault?" Sunny's mom screamed back, "How can we trust you? You're just trying to shirk responsibility." I held up my phone and waved it. "Since we have conflicting stories, let's record everything. If I'm lying, I'll cover Sunny's medical expenses. But if she's lying, your family must apologize to me." I was confident that Sunny wouldn't deny it. She was too eager to take credit for saving Ethan. Sunny's mom was about to argue, but as she noticed neighbors recording the scene, she begrudgingly agreed. "Fine. Whoever lies will pay dearly." A neighbor stepped forward, eager to help, volunteering to record the video and accompany us to the hospital. When we arrived, Sunny had already woken up. Seeing the crowd enter her room, she clutched her blanket nervously. Her eyes flashed with hostility as she glared at me, clearly convinced I was there to steal her glory. "Mom, didn't I tell you to just come to the hospital? Why did you bring so many people?" she asked urgently. Sunny's mom, still unaware, announced loudly, "Sunny, don't worry. I brought the culprit here. She needs to pay for what she did to you." At my bemused expression, Sunny quickly averted her gaze, embarrassment creeping onto her face. "Mom, this has nothing to do with Yoko. I wanted to save someone. Please don't drag her into this," she insisted, her tone awkward. Sunny's mom, who had been demanding justice, suddenly seemed deflated, her anger dissipating. She stared at Sunny in disbelief. "What did you just say? It has nothing to do with her." Fearing the implications of her actions might link back to me, Sunny replied impatiently, "I asked you to come take care of me, not to make a scene. You're embarrassing us." Sunny's dad turned to my parents and me, his expression apologetic. "Mr. Harper, I'm really sorry about the commotion today. Please." My dad interrupted him, waving his hand dismissively. "Mr. Smith, we've been neighbors for years. I know what kind of person you are. But today my daughter has been wronged. You need to apologize." Sunny's dad, caught between anger and embarrassment, turned red and, pulling his wife along, offered his apologies to us. Once home, I looked at my usually gentle father in disbelief. "Dad, you were different today." Dad affectionately ruffled my hair, pretending to be serious. "I may be good-natured, but that doesn't mean anyone can bully my daughter. I needed to make it clear that no one can spread rumors or mistreat you." Seeing my parents stand up for me brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't bear to think how they felt in my previous life when I was hospitalized, and Sunny's family spread malicious rumors about me. I asked a neighbor for the video they recorded today, planning to keep it as evidence. I will repay the grudges from my past life. Chapter 3. The next time I saw Sunny was over half a month later. She stepped out of a black luxury car, wearing a limited edition dress and carrying a designer bag. When she spotted me, she excitedly ran over. Her face was beaming with joy, but her eyes were fixed on me, full of curiosity. "Yoko, guess who I saved that day?" I noticed the look in her eyes. She was testing to see if I had also been reborn. I feigned confusion, keeping my tone casual. "Who?" Seeing my lack of reaction, she took a deep breath and relaxed. "It was Ethan Lewis, the young master of River City. You wouldn't believe how rich he is." She animatedly described the wealth of the Lewis family and how lucky she felt. Feigning concern, I asked, "Sunny, we're supposed to start our internships in a month. Are you okay after your injuries?" She rolled her eyes at me. "Yoko, are you stupid? I saved Ethan. Why would I need to go for an internship?" Her inner thoughts echoed. Yoko is indeed a brainless idiot. I wasted half a month in the hospital worrying she might have been reborn too. I pretended to be anxious, wanting to persuade her, but she impatiently interrupted. "You can go to that crappy internship if you want. I'm not going." "What if your mom finds out and scolds you?" Sunny sneered, her eyes full of disdain. "The Lewis family is hosting a party for me soon to introduce me to wealthy businessmen. My mom, she'd worship me if she could. Plus, the Lewis family promised me a huge sum of money and a job at the Lewis Group after graduation. Not to mention, Ethan looks at me differently. I'll soon marry into the Lewis family and become a true wealthy lady." I lowered my head to hide my smile. To her, my timid demeanor signaled regret and inexperience. With a disdainful flourish, she pulled an invitation from her bag and handed it to me. "This is an invitation to the party. I got one for you too. Don't say I never do anything for you. Come and see the world for yourself." Chapter 4. For several consecutive days, each morning when I left home to search for an internship, I would coincidentally run into Sunny's mother. Every time she saw me coming out of the house, she would boast, "Yoko, looking for internships again? My Sunny is so lucky. The Lewis family has already arranged for her to work at the Lewis Group once she recovers." It seemed the Smith family now viewed Sunny's act of saving Ethan as their ticket to climbing the social ladder. I smiled and closed the door without responding. As I walked downstairs, I could still hear Sunny's mother muttering, "Just a bookworm. She'll never be as successful as my Sunny." A week later, I received a notification that I had passed my internship interview. Just then, Sunny came to my house, asking me to accompany her to a banquet. I was exhausted from the day and didn't want to go, but Sunny kept insisting. She claimed she wanted me to see the world, but her eyes sparkled with barely concealed pride. Her inner thoughts practically shouted, "In my last life, she was so high and mighty, playing the role of Mrs. Lewis for so long. This time, I'll make sure she watches me take the place that was meant for her." Sunny had always liked to compete with me, but whether in grades or looks, she always fell short. This time, she was determined not to miss the chance to outshine me and satisfy her vanity. Thinking back to all the things the Lewis family did to me and my parents in the previous life, I felt a surge of anger. Reluctantly, I agreed to go with her. I genuinely wanted to see how triumphant she would be when she learned about the despicable things the Lewis family did behind her back. Would she still be so eager to flaunt her fortune? The banquet was exactly the same as in my previous life, held at the River Grand Hotel. As soon as we got out of the car, Sunny was captivated by the hotel's extravagance, her mouth agape as she looked around with barely concealed greed. But when Ethan's bodyguards approached us, she quickly adopted a nonchalant expression, as if wealth didn't matter to her. Seeing the bodyguards treating her with such respect, her smirk widened. With an air of superiority, she looked at me with disdain, pulling up the long train of her dress. "Yoko, don't act like you've never seen the world, like some country bumpkin. I'm a guest of the Lewis family. Don't embarrass me." She strutted behind the bodyguards, her eyes arrogantly scanning the guests around her. At that moment, she seemed to believe she was already the noble Mrs. Lewis. The guests around us were dressed in luxurious attire, but Sunny's outfit was particularly over the top. Her fitted fishtail dress and 10-centimeter heels restricted her movements, and her flamboyant makeup made her look like a ridiculous clown with every step. Sunny was oblivious to the mocking glances directed her way, instead reveling in the attention she received. As soon as Ethan's father, Mount Lewis, saw her, he greeted her with a warm smile. Sunny, feeling triumphant, raised her chin at me and quickly approached him, calling out in a high-pitched voice, "Uncle Lewis." To showcase her extravagant look, Sunny pulled me over to introduce me to Mount Lewis. "Uncle Lewis, this is my good friend Yoko. She ran away the day I saved Ethan. When she heard the banquet was at Xiangxi Grand Hotel, she begged me to bring her along. You don't mind, do you?" Upon hearing about my escape, Mount Lewis scrutinized me with a glance. I held my breath, the terror from my previous life creeping over me. Fortunately, he only glanced at me before losing interest and redirecting his attention back to Sunny. He took her hand, gently patting it, his tone soft and affectionate. How could I mind? Your friend is a friend of the Lewis family. I'm glad you consider the Lewis family your own. We're happy to have you bring friends to our home. I lowered my head, trying to suppress the panic rising within me. Just then, I heard Sunny's inner thoughts again. I'll make sure that little brat Yoko sees that I'm the one favored by the Lewis family, the future Mrs. Lewis. Her eyes gleamed with triumph as she looked at me. Chapter 5. The main event of the banquet unfolded as the evening drew to a close. Ethan made his entrance in a perfectly tailored suit, his hair meticulously styled, and his refined features made him the focal point of the room the moment he arrived. Accompanying him was a striking woman, radiant and poised, her makeup flawless and her smile warm. She wore the same fishtail gown as Sunny, creating a stunning visual contrast that emphasized Sunny's ill-fitting dress, making her look like a clown caught wearing someone else's clothes. I recognized this woman, Ethan's stepsister Evelyn. Though referred to as a stepsister, she was truly Ethan's lover. After Ethan and Evelyn exchanged pleasantries with the guests, Mount Lewis led them towards Sunny. With a smile, Mount Lewis affectionately patted Ethan's shoulder, conveying an unspoken message. Ethan then turned his gaze to Sunny, his eyes brimming with sincere affection. Thank you, Miss Smith, for your help that day. I won't lie, I fell for you at first sight. Would you do me the honor of being my girlfriend? The media surrounding Ethan eagerly captured the moment, their cameras clicking in unison, reminiscent of my previous life. I could already envision the headlines that would follow. Sunny, flattered by Ethan's compliment, was oblivious to the way Mount Lewis regarded her. Nor did she notice Evelyn, who stood apart, coldly sipping champagne. Once the reporters dispersed, Ethan's smile vanished, replaced by a distant demeanor towards Sunny. Throughout the evening, Sunny made a concerted effort to engage with Ethan and Evelyn, but their responses were unenthusiastic. After the banquet, Mount Lewis arranged for a driver to take Sunny and me home. During the ride, Sunny couldn't contain her frustration. I'm Ethan's girlfriend, yet he's so distant. And that Evelyn, acting all high and mighty in front of me. I'm her brother's savior. She continued to fume over the siblings' aloofness. I decided to fan the flames. Sunny, maybe you're overreacting. Miss Lewis seems quite shy and reserved. Perhaps that's just her nature. Sunny rolled her eyes and shot back. I think she's doing it on purpose. She looks down on me. I'm a guest invited by her father. What gives her the right to snub me? She's just lucky to be born into a wealthy family. Who does she think she is? The driver glanced back at Sunny through the rearview mirror. I recognized him. He was Ethan's personal driver. Yet Sunny remained oblivious, thinking he was just an ordinary chauffeur. I noticed the driver frequently eyeing Sunny, and I realized that everything she said would make its way back to the Lewis family. I had successfully distanced myself from the brewing conflict. Ethan, that twisted psychopath, would ensure that Sunny faced consequences for her disrespect towards Evelyn. Chapter 6. A few days later, the Lewis family arrived with betrothal gifts, making a grand entrance that brought Sunny significant attention. Media reporters swarmed around Sunny and Ethan, capturing every moment, and it wasn't long before the news was trending locally. Sunny, excitedly holding her new phone, rushed to my house to boast. Yoko, look. Everyone online is praising me for being beautiful and kind, saying how perfectly matched I am with Ethan. Do you know how much dowry Ethan gave me? 20 million. Now everyone says I'm the most expensive bride in River City. 20 million? Your family couldn't earn that in 10 lifetimes. Indeed, my father was merely a middle manager at a company, and my mother was a music teacher. They could never accumulate 20 million in 10 lifetimes. But I understood that the Lewis family's wealth wasn't easily attained. Seeing my silence, Sunny assumed I was simply envious. She comforted me, saying, Yoko, don't worry. I won't forget my poor friends. I'll always take you out with me. True to her word, whenever Ethan invited her out during the holidays, she brought me along. Initially, I declined repeatedly. I had secured an internship, and was preparing for graduate school. After I turned her down a few times, Sunny silently cursed me for being ungrateful, while secretly feeling relieved to enjoy her dates with Ethan alone. Each time she returned from a date, she would knock on my door, laden with shopping bags. She would eagerly show off the limited edition bags, shoes, clothes, and cosmetics that Ethan gifted her. "Yoko, you won't believe it. Ethan said I'm the most perfect woman, and that I deserve the best. Next time, come with me, and I'll make him buy you a bag too." Recalling the all-too-familiar scenario from my past life, I decided to change my approach and feigned excitement. "Really, Sunny? If I go, will he truly buy me a designer bag?" Sunny's eyes filled with disdain, her tone dripping with condescension. "Of course. After all, I'm Ethan's fiancé. He'll definitely do it for my sake." The next day, when Ethan invited Sunny out, I happily decided to tag along. Chapter 7. This time it was Evelyn's birthday, and the rich kids had gathered at her hillside villa to celebrate. The hillside villa was a birthday gift from Lewiston to her. Sunny was very displeased when she found out. She used her status as Lewiston's fiancé to openly reprimand Evelyn. "Jianing, I'm telling you, you can't expect your brother to spoil you like this forever, especially after you get married." The atmosphere instantly turned cold. Everyone present knew about the inappropriate relationship between Evelyn and Lewiston. The second-generation rich kids sat on the sofas, smirking and waiting for the now cold-faced Lewiston to deal with the foolish Sunny. Understanding the malicious nature of these wealthy brats, I timidly stayed close to the nanny, avoiding any interaction with them. My overly compliant and submissive demeanor made me completely uninteresting to them. At a signal from Evelyn, the nanny stepped forward to pour wine. As the nanny approached Sunny, she stumbled, spilling the wine all over Sunny. From my spot in the corner, I saw everything clearly. Feigning panic, the nanny repeatedly apologized, but Sunny rose and slapped her. "Idiot, do you know how expensive this dress is? Can you afford to pay for it?" The dress Sunny wore was a knockoff of a new release from the Milan fashion show. In my previous life, I had also received this dress from Lewiston, only to later discover that all the gifts he gave me were fake. The real ones were in Evelyn's wardrobe. The rich kids watching the scene made no attempt to intervene, sipping their drinks while enjoying the spectacle. The nanny, clutching her face, stammered through tears. "Miss Smith, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Please let me send it for dry cleaning." Sunny, already furious, exploded cursing. "You idiot! Do you know how expensive this dress is? How dare you suggest dry cleaning? I am Lewiston's savior and his fiancé. By humiliating me, you're humiliating the entire Lewis family. Do you believe I won't have you fired?" Lewiston despised it when Sunny mentioned that she was his savior and fiancé. And when Evelyn heard the word fiancé, she clenched her fists tightly. Seeing the siblings' icy stares, I hid in the corner, fighting to suppress a smirk. Someone, noticing Lewiston's darkening expression, stepped in to defuse the situation. "All right, sis-in-law, it's Jianing's birthday. Let's not spoil it. I'll compensate you for the dress." But Sunny wasn't ready to let it go. She turned to Lewiston. "Brother Sonnen, look at her. She doesn't respect us at all." Lewiston swirled his wine, his gaze indifferent. "It's just a dress. No need to get upset. I'll have a new one sent to you tomorrow." Feeling triumphant, Sunny glanced at the wealthy guests with undisguised pride. She walked up to the nanny, poking her forehead with her finger. "I'll let it slide this time, but if it happens again, I'll make sure you're fired." The room fell silent, and I could see the disdain in the eyes of the rich kids. They were waiting for the moment when Lewiston and Evelyn would put Sunny in her place. Chapter 8. Sunny spent the entire night at the villa, wearing her wine-stained dress and making a fool of herself among the rich kids. She bossed me around, oblivious to how ridiculous she looked to everyone else. On the way home, she clutched the new dress that Lewiston had sent her, grinning from ear to ear. To make up for the incident, she received numerous gifts, and even I, treated like her sidekick, received a gift. Sunny boasted, "See? I told you you wouldn't be neglected. There are endless benefits to sticking with me." Then she excitedly pulled out her new dress, eagerly holding it up against herself in the taxi. I glanced at the poorly finished seams and couldn't help but laugh inwardly. This counterfeit dress brought Sunny so much joy. I touched the handbag I received, noting the rough stitching and loose threads. Sunny noticed my action and looked at me with disdain. I had been debating whether to warn her, but I swallowed my words. Let her enjoy her dream for now. After that night, I stopped accompanying her to their gatherings. Sunny and Lewiston grew closer, and during my internship, I often saw Lewiston's flashy red Ferrari parked outside my building, waiting to take Sunny out. Every time she came back, she was laden with shopping bags, and our neighbors couldn't hide their envy. Sunny's parents, seeing my mom and dad, held their heads high, acting as if they were above us. Our Sunny will be the daughter-in-law of the Lewis family and a senior executive at the Lewis Group. She's out of your league. No matter how excellent your Yoko is or how good her grades are, she's still destined to be just a worker. Their arrogance was palpable, but I knew the truth. The Lewis family's money wasn't so easily taken, and Sunny's happiness was built on a fragile foundation. Chapter 9. Only I knew that Ethan never regarded Sunny as his fiancé. She was merely a dog that came when called. The same events, the same experiences, these had all happened to me in my previous life. Back then, Ethan used the pretext of repaying my life-saving deed to frequently invite me out to join their gatherings. I thought I had met one of those down-to-earth, easygoing rich young masters from a novel and treated him sincerely. Later, I realized he only saw me as a cover to hide his scandalous relationship with his stepsister. Even after marriage, I was nothing more than a source of amusement. How could these haughty second-generation rich kids truly respect an ordinary person? Evelyn was particularly duplicitous. She'd sweetly praise me in front of others, but behind my back, she would belittle me. Whenever I was forced to join their outings, she'd intentionally embarrass me and then laugh about it with her friends. The gifts from Ethan and Evelyn were all counterfeit. Initially, I naively treasured them, recalling the disdainful looks from those wealthy ladies when I carried my fake bag and wore fake jewelry. I finally understood how foolish I must have seemed to them. They placed me in the company, making it look like I was a high-earning executive when in reality, I was just a scapegoat. The Lewis siblings appeared to be high and mighty, but only I knew how dark and twisted they were behind the scenes. So, when Sunny spiked my drink with mango juice in my previous life, I was already living a fate worse than death, tormented by the Lewis siblings. But I couldn't and didn't dare commit suicide. They threatened my parents' lives, forcing me to continue playing the role of the cherished Mrs. Lewis. I detected the mango scent immediately, but I drank it willingly anyway. Until my dying breath, I regretted saving that demon. Chapter 10. After finishing my internship, I successfully returned to school and completed my thesis defense. My parents were thrilled with my graduation and threw a welcome home party for me. Somehow Sunny found out and showed up as well. She couldn't stand me doing better than her. Though she congratulated me, her thoughts were filled with curses. In front of her, I opened the designer bag she had given me, revealing a luxury handbag inside. Her eyes gleamed with pride. "Yoko, don't say I'm not a good friend. I bought you this bag to celebrate your graduation. This bag alone is worth a year's living expenses for you. Never mind. Someone like you who's never seen the world wouldn't understand even if I explained." I inwardly scoffed, recognizing the bag as the same fake one Lewiston had given me in my previous life. Sunny continued to brag about how hard it was to get the bag from abroad, but her inner thoughts betrayed her true feelings. That wench Yoko is only worthy of this fake bag. Even the Lewis family sent me counterfeit goods to fool me. I won't let them off easily. Sunny had indeed discovered the Lewis family's deceit far earlier than I had in my previous life. Yet, despite her realization, she wasn't willing to let go of the Lewis family's wealth and continued to pretend ignorance, playing along with their games. Hearing her inner thoughts, I smiled brightly and thanked her excitedly. "Sunny, you better cling tightly to that Lewis family. I'm looking forward to seeing you and the Lewis family tear each other apart." We maintained our superficial friendship until one night while studying late, I heard voices outside my window. This time, it wasn't Lewiston's flashy red Ferrari that dropped Sunny off. A black Rolls-Royce was parked downstairs, and to my surprise, Mount Lewis stepped out, gallantly opening the car door for Sunny. I quickly hid behind the curtains, watching as the two passionately kissed, only parting after a long while before Sunny went upstairs. After Sunny went inside, Mount Lewis didn't leave immediately. He seemed to sense something and glanced in my direction. My heart skipped a beat, but I was well hidden, with the thick curtains blocking any view from outside. Chapter 11. Sure enough, Sunny had seduced Mount Lewis, the head of the Lewis family, for her gain. What surprised me more was that they had been together for several months, and Ethan had no idea. In my previous life, Ethan was incredibly controlling. He wasn't the type to be so oblivious. Sunny played with the diamond ring on her finger and said to me, "Ethan, that high and mighty young master, thinks the world revolves around him." But I just had to crook my finger, and his father fell for me. She patted her belly with a sly smile. "I'm not stupid enough to wait for Ethan to throw me scraps. I'm carrying Mount Lewis's precious son. When the child is born, I'll be set for life." Mount Lewis promised me he'd find the right opportunity to marry me into the family. "By the time you get into your pitiful grad school, I'll be Mrs. Lewis." Her inner voice echoed again. "Yoko, you idiot. You had such a great opportunity in your last life and didn't use it. You deserve to die. When I give birth to this child, I'll truly have crossed the social divide. Having ambition is fine, but when your abilities don't match your ambitions, it brings endless disaster." I smiled sincerely. "I wish you success." On the day I finished my graduate school exams, I ran into Sunny downstairs, all dressed up and ready to go out. "Yoko, I'm getting engaged today. Do you want to come?" She flaunted the diamond ring on her finger, her excitement palpable. Mount Lewis booked a hillside villa just to propose to me. You might see me trending on the news soon. Seeing her already prominent belly, I didn't stop her. I just said I was too tired from exams to go. After I turned her down, she snorted and walked away, supporting her belly. Chapter 12. At 3 a.m., I was awakened by my phone ringing incessantly. Groggily, I answered to hear Sunny's terrified voice. "Yoko, please save me. Call the police, please help me." "What's wrong?" I struggled to suppress my laughter. "Aren't you getting engaged? Why do you need me to call the police?" Her sobs grew more frantic. "Yoko, please. They're all crazy. The Lewis family is full of lunatics. Mount Lewis tricked me. He brought a bunch of men to torment me. I lost the baby, and now they're playing hide and seek with me. If they catch me, I'll die. Please help me." Before I could respond, I heard noises on her end, and a man's lewd voice came through the phone. "Sweetheart, you'd better hide well, or I'll catch you." The call abruptly ended, and I clutched my phone, sinking into those terrifying memories. In my previous life, it was the same. When I discovered the scandal between Ethan and Evelyn, Mount Lewis pretended to apologize, but instead brought a group of old men to the hillside villa. Those men looked at me with predatory eyes. That night was a night of horror. I was plunged into endless darkness. I desperately hid, searching for a place to conceal myself. But Mount Lewis had already implanted a tracking chip in my ankle. No matter how well I hid, they always found me. In the end, they captured me, chained me, and forced me to crawl on the ground like a dog. I was tortured nearly to death, and they took many indecent photos of me. By some stroke of luck, I survived that night. Ethan allowed it to happen, even using the videos and photos to threaten me. If I didn't obey, those filthy images would be shown to my parents. My father had a heart condition, and I couldn't risk exposing those photos to them. Forced into submission, I had to endure the pain, pretending to be a loving wife in public while being tortured at night. Sunny had dreamt of living a life like mine in my previous life, and now she finally got her wish. This was the consequence of her actions that led to my death. Whether it's a blessing or a curse, she has to bear it herself. Chapter 13. At dawn, I took the recording on my phone and went to the police station to report the crime. Within a few hours, the hillside villa was surrounded and sealed off by the police. When the police stormed in, they caught Ethan and Evelyn in the act of abusing the nearly lifeless Sunny. The police arrested the panicked group, and amidst the chaos, I managed to snatch a hidden camera. The next day, River City was rocked by a scandal involving the Lewis family. The footage revealed the heinous acts of the Lewis family's young master and miss, along with several other family heads, who took pleasure in torturing ordinary people. The video contained many indecent scenes, but the most gruesome one showed Mount Lewis kicking Sunny's pregnant belly. In the video, Sunny screamed in agony, clutching her belly as blood flowed down her legs. Evelyn was seen grabbing Sunny by the hair, snarling, "Did you really think someone like you could marry into a wealthy family? I forgot to tell you, the child in your belly isn't even my father's. That night, I found you plenty of black men." The video caused a massive uproar online. The Lewis family and other involved families tried to perform emergency damage control, but the public was not appeased. Curious netizens dug up the old news of Sunny's engagement to the Lewis family, realizing that the woman who saved Ethan and the woman who was beaten until she miscarried were the same person. Within a week, the market value of the Lewis group plummeted by billions. The public demanded severe punishment for the Lewis family, putting immense pressure on the authorities. Chapter 14. After a week of intensive care, Sunny's life was saved, but her uterus was severely damaged, meaning she could never have children again. When I went to visit her, she lay on the bed, eyes vacant, her face still swollen like a pig's head, covered in bruises. Seeing me, her eyes filled with hatred. "Yoko, it's all your fault for not bringing the police sooner. Look at what's happened to me because of you." I couldn't help but laugh. "What are you laughing at? You did this on purpose, didn't you? I knew it. You were jealous of me and couldn't wait to see me fall." It seemed the beating hadn't taught her a lesson. I reached out, pressing hard on her bruised face, watching her grimace in pain before I let go, satisfied. "Does it hurt? Good. Maybe now you'll wake up a bit. If I hadn't called the police, you wouldn't even be alive." She gritted her teeth, wanting to argue, but knowing she had no ground to stand on. "You're right. I did plan this from the beginning." Sunny's expression turned to one of pure terror, her body trembling uncontrollably. You've been reborn too." Ignoring her question, I replied, "Sunny, did you enjoy living my life in the last one? Do you still like this glamorous life in the wealthy circle?" "I should thank you. The prison I was desperate to escape from, you eagerly jumped into." Chapter 15. Sunny's entire body might as well have been paralyzed, but her eyes, burning with rage, were still able to move and glare at me. "You bitch, you'll die a horrible death. It's all your fault." I waited until she was exhausted from cursing before feigning a sorrowful tone. "Sunny, you've got it wrong. It wasn't me who ruined you. It was Ethan. Do you really think those people were genuinely attacking him? In my previous life, after enduring endless torment, I found out that those who attacked him were hired by him. His aim was to attract innocent girls like you to become his next plaything." Hearing my words, Sunny's eyes filled with intense hatred. "Sunny, none of this is your fault. He used you for his entertainment and destroyed your life." I spoke with conviction, and the fury in Sunny's eyes grew even fiercer. Leaning closer, I whispered into her ear, "Sunny, don't you want a chance to strike back at them for what they did to you?" She stared at me for a while before finally nodding with a determined look in her eyes. Chapter 16. Due to public pressure, the Lewis family trio, along with several accomplices, faced legal consequences. In a desperate attempt to save his only son, Lewissonen, Mount Lewis sold most of his shares and used all his savings to forge mental illness certificates for Lewissonen and Evelyn. Just when Mount Lewis thought he would only receive a few years' sentence, several couples came forward with allegations against him and Lewissonen. The evidence in their hands conclusively proved the Lewis father and son's involvement in hunting young girls. Mount Lewis could no longer clear his name and was sentenced to death. It was thanks to the camera I took that day that I was able to track down the families of the previous victims. Once the Lewis family's crimes were exposed, netizens began boycotting Lewis family products, and the Lewis group's fortunes took a nosedive. Lewissonen and Evelyn were sent to a mental institution for treatment. Lewissonen's mother planned to quietly move them abroad once the situation settled. I informed Sunny of this, and she paid a hefty bribe to the mental institution's director to secure a job there. 2 months after starting her job, Sunny finally gained access to Lewissonen and Evelyn's rooms. That night, A massive fire broke out in the room where Lewiston and Evelyn were housed. To my surprise, Sunny also perished in the fire. According to the police report, Sunny had tightly held onto Lewiston as they burned to death in the room. Chapter 17. The incident was ruled a murder, but the perpetrator was already dead. Lewiston's mother was devastated, crying inconsolably. The Lewis family had spent most of their fortune and Mount Lewis's life trying to protect Lewiston, but in the end, Lewiston still died. She caused a commotion at the mental institution, threatening the hospital executives. This move angered the hospital's higher-ups, who then released evidence of their bribery. As a result, Lewiston's mother also faced legal charges. Her shares were quickly taken over, leaving the Lewis family with neither people nor wealth. She lost her only son. The series of blows led the once proud and elegant Mrs. Lewistow develop a terminal illness. In subsequent news reports, I saw the once high and mighty socialite, now with white hair and a withered frame, collapsed at the hospital's entrance. Before I could continue reading, I heard a knock on my bedroom door. "Yoko, your graduate school admission letter has arrived." I got up and shut down my computer. My beautiful life was beckoning to me.